Sparking Change with Gigi, a show that aims to make the world a better place by bringing together authentic minds. This show encourages each of us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Get ready to be inspired and join us on this journey to create a brighter future for all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sparking Change with Gigi. Today's show, we're going to be talking about embracing IA. Well, it's coming, guys, so ready or not, it's going to be here. And my guest, Larry Roberts, is the expert and the CEO of Red Hat Media, and he's going to talk to us all about AI, right? Artificial intelligence is the way of the future, and it's affecting our everyday lives and also our businesses. And Larry, welcome, because I met you last week and you share so much information that is so important for not only an individual in our own lives, but in our business, to grow our business. And I'm so happy you're here. So tell us a little bit about yourself and all the great things that we need to know about AI.
Wow, that's a lot wrapped into one question right there. So maybe we'll break it down into some steps here. But
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate this opportunity. It's great to come on and meet you here in your environment with your audience. So this is tremendous. Thank you for that. It was great meeting you this past weekend. And yeah, I spoke at the E360 conference out there in LA and was talking about AI for content creation.
Mm-hmm.
And AI has significant implications when it comes to content creation on a variety of fronts. But we can kind of dig into that a little bit deeper as we get into the conversation. But it's not just, AI is not just for content. It's going to be impacting us on every level that we can imagine. I mean, we're already seeing it impact us in a tremendous way within the workforce, within education, within, again, the content space. Within the profession space, within the product development, and just the workplace evolution. We're seeing it all across the board. And it can be pretty intimidating if we're not careful. But my whole goal is to educate as many people as possible throughout a variety of different verticals, so that regardless of where you're at in this AI, I don't know, we'll call it a revolution. It's probably the most significant change we've seen to our lives, really since the internet. This is like, internet 3.0 type scenario. It's like you think back, there was a major change when the personal computer was introduced, then changed again and impacted everybody again when the internet hit. And now here we are again going through another phase of technological development that hit really, really fast and has hit really, really hard. So hopefully throughout this conversation, we can bridge some of those gaps and put people at ease and just talk about it a little more in depth.
Yeah, as an educator like myself, I'm looking at what's happening out there, and it brings a lot of opportunities, but also a lot of, if we don't move with this flow, we'll be left behind. And it's truly important that we embrace this. So let's, where would you like to begin? In the personal side?
Sure, we can jump in on the personal side and go from there. I thought it was interesting, though, that you mentioned as an educator, because I just picked up yesterday, it got dropped off by Amazon, Sam Khan's new book called Brave New Words, which is all about AI and the impact that AI is having on education. And he is the founder of the Khan Academy, which is a nonprofit organization and, the largest virtual educational platform, I think, on the globe. So his book, I highly recommend it if you really want to take a look at how AI is going to impact education and change the way that our children learn and change the way that we can learn. I highly recommend that book. I mean, literally, it got dropped off yesterday. I'm already halfway through it.
Thank you. I will definitely order it for myself for sure. But I do know that when we begin to look at AI from an advantage standpoint, right, whether it's education or our own personal lives,
sure,
how can it be used so that we continue to grow? Because I think this is a tool that not only is good to make our life easier, but also enables us to really go after our goals, right? Like if you're looking to write a book, oh my goodness, what you
Yeah.
showed us on the conference, like close your eyes, you can have a book written in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I
But
mean,
of
look, and
course,
I always keep a copy right here, so I love to plug my book.
I love
But
it.
I mean, literally, I wrote it in a couple of weeks. It's super simple. Now, I did use AI to write the vast majority of it, but I also tell everybody in the introduction of the book that I wrote it with AI and why. I wanted to demonstrate the power of AI and the amazing tool that it can be, regardless of what we're doing. But I think the first thing we have to do is kind of understand it. What
Yes.
is it, and what does it even mean? People think that AI just popped up November of 22 when ChatGPT hit the scene, and that's just not the case. The
Mm,
term AI or artificial intelligence was actually coined back, I believe it was 1956, when a scientist felt that if he could replicate human engagement using mathematical calculations or algorithms at the time,
yes.
then we could develop this artificial type intelligence. And we saw the evolution of that after several decades, but they weren't necessarily making the strides that they were looking for because, well, it takes data to generate this artificial intelligence. And if you think back into the 60s,
Hmm.
70s, and all the way back even into the 50s, we didn't have a ton of data at the time. And that's really one of the things that's allowed us to progress so significantly over the last several years is that, I mean, we're in a data driven society.
Yes.
Data is being collected on us each and every day, each and every second. There's probably data being collected on this stream right now about how long we've been on the stream, who we're talking to, where we're coming from, where you're at, where I'm at. All
Yes.
of this is data. And this data is being fed into these large language models, and they train these large language models. And that's where we get the artificial or the perception of artificial intelligence that we have today. But long about the 80s, we started seeing the military kind of get involved.
Hmm.
And once the military goes, this AI stuff, this might be beneficial. Once they start getting involved, miraculously, there's funding that's suddenly available, and
Yes.
schools are being funded, and discoveries are being made, and we start
Right.
seeing these significant jumps and these leaps in the technology. And then again, as of late, over the last 5, 7 years or so, we've seen significant strides in the industry.
Hmm. It's growing for sure. I know that it is the way of the future. It is making headlines all over. But one thing that AI doesn't have that I think we all have to acknowledge that it doesn't have feelings, right? It's a computer generated. Um, so when you're writing that book, if it is something that you're talking heart to heart, you must look at the work and making sure it speaks your language. Like you can't totally depend on it 100%.
No, and people get in trouble when they do that, as a matter of
Right.
fact. But you're spot on in the fact that AI does not have that emotional intelligence or that
Hmm.
EQ that we as human beings we have.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a key component as we continue to evolve and we continue to embrace this new technology is we can't lose sight of our own emotional intelligence. And we have
Right.
to strive to develop that emotional intelligence. We want to make sure that we can function in diverse environments and carry on
Correct.
conversations with diverse individuals from diverse backgrounds. We want to have troubleshooting skill sets. Again, like you said, the AI, it can do things from a mathematical perspective and a predictive perspective, which looks like it's artificially intelligent, but
Right.
really it's just got a good grasp on, especially from a chat GPT or these chatbots that we're seeing, especially from that perspective, it's very good at predicting. And that's essentially how these models work. If you ask them a question, these models, they've been trained on so much data that
Hmm.
they've gotten to where they predict the response that we as humans would anticipate. So while we're thinking about our next word, these large language models are already stepping 6, 7, 8 words ahead of the
Right.
conversation with their predictions of what we expect them to say in response to the question or the command that we posed. So that's where the perception of artificial intelligence comes in.
What advice would you give to those who haven't even touched it yet? As far as like, where did they begin to, feel it, play with it, get
Sure.
a sense of like what it can do for them?
Well, I think you need to probably start on YouTube. I would highly recommend go to YouTube,
Hmm.
look up some videos on artificial intelligence, get an idea of what it is. And I think that's the thing that many people overlook is we also have to go into this mode of continuous learning. We have to
That's right.
educate ourselves daily on this new technology because the technology is evolving at that pace. So it's very difficult for us to stay ahead of the game, even if we sit back a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then go, "Oh, I probably ought to figure this AI stuff out." It's too late then. It's
Yeah.
extremely hard to play catch up, and it's extremely hard to overcome the fear that we inherently have to change. Humans, especially me, I don't like change. My wife will tell you that. I hate change. She wants to change the bedspread. I'm like, no. I mean, that's something simple. I hate change. But we as humans, we have to understand that things are changing. And, if you look at it really from a broader perspective, there's a good chance that people are using AI and they don't even know it.
True.
If you're on YouTube and YouTube is suggesting videos for you to watch based on your browsing history, that is a form of AI.
Or
If
Alexa.
Alexa is another
Yeah.
example of AI. You look at Netflix or anything like that that's suggesting things for you. Siri on your iPhone, if Siri's talking to you, that's a form of artificial intelligence. So we're odds are we're interacting with it, but it's so new to us that it's very difficult for us to conceptualize how it's going to impact us on a larger scale. Even as
Right.
I sit back and I play with these tools all day, every day, and there
Hmm.
are still so many things that we could do with these tools that I haven't even thought of as an opportunity. And as I was reading that book I mentioned, Brave New
Yes.
Words, earlier, as I was reading that and looking at how they developed their AI tutor for the students on their platform, they were coming at it from a variety of different perspectives and creative perspectives that again our closed-mindedness and our tendency to stay in a habitual mode. we all
The
we get
comfort
up,
zone,
we do
right?
this, we have
Hmm.
coffee, we go to work, we go to work for 4 hours, we go to lunch, we come back, we finish up the shift, we go home, we do this, and it's very pattern based. Well,
Yes.
this AI is a significant pattern interrupt, and we have to again look at ourselves and go, how do I think about how this could impact me, at a from a creative perspective on a larger scale, because that's what we're going to be seeing. It's going to impact everything.
And
Right now 85% of Fortune 500 companies are using AI in some way. That's a
right. And
huge number.
very huge. And I also think this brings out an opportunity to create new entrepreneurs, right? For people who have a mind of very creative mind who want to really go and do something that is different but don't know where to start. Well, hello AI, just ask ChatGPT and it's going to give you some feedback on where to begin.
100%. I'll give you an example. Just today,
Yes.
looking at kind of tweaking my Google AdWords cost per click campaigns, right?
Yes.
So I went out and I did a new keyword analysis using Google AdWords, and it came back and it gave me like 1,000 different keywords that I could use for running ads. It gave me how many people were searching for it every month, what the average cost of that was, the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, this is 1,000 different words. Actually, I think it was 1,100 and some change. This is a ton of different words for me to sort through and figure out which would work best for me. So after I did that on Google AdWords, I put it in a spreadsheet. Okay. I took that spreadsheet, I uploaded it to ChatGPT. I said, analyze this spreadsheet and the list of keywords that I've provided and compare those with the services page on my website and pick out the top terms that would be in this list that would coincide with the actual services that I offered. It refined that list from over 1,000 words down to about 20. So it was much more manageable. It was the number one search terms for each of
I
these
need to hire you.
services. I mean, it's insane, and it was
Oh, it
super.
is insane. I couldn't even imagine doing it. That would have probably taken me 3, 4 days to kind of figure that all out.
And it would
Oh, no.
anybody, but I was able to use ChatGPT to analyze that spreadsheet and compare it to my website and go, these are the ones that work best for you. And it was quick. I mean, it was 30 minutes, maybe max.
I
It was
used
insane.
amazing. I used to work for MasterCard and we used to analyze the interchange fees. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
massive spreadsheets, massive tabs. Could you imagine uploading one of those into AI and getting back? Like my job is done. They don't need me anymore, right? It's
Well,
like it's
but that's what's so scary And
Yeah,
that's a huge fear. Is people say that they say that about all sorts of different positions. My job is
right.
gone. They don't need me anymore. Well, again, going back to us making ourselves more readily available and more educated on these tools,
Yes.
we understand that these are tools to help us be more effective and efficient in our current positions. But there's a meme that's been going around for a while. I think Gary Vaynerchuk was one of the first ones to say it, was that AI is not going to take your job, but it's someone that's using AI that will most likely take your job. So
Yes.
that's where you have to empower yourself with these tools and use them for what they are. They're not designed as replacements, they're designed as enhancements. And the analysis that I just described, that would have taken hours to go through over
Yes.
a
Oh,
thousand different
absolutely.
keywords, right? And evaluate. But I wanted it specifically for the services on my website. I gave it the link to my website. It compared the two, boom, done. And then it gave me
Amazing.
it planned out the entire approach for my ad campaign. Said, take this approach,
Amazing.
do this, off to the
Wow.
races.
Wow. Wow.
Done.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's either we embrace it um, with open arms or we fear of it, right? We can't do both. We get to
Yeah.
choose. Do we
Yeah.
want to embrace it or do we want to feel infuriated from it and scary and not look at it? But either way, it's coming towards us and we're going to have to, face it one way or the other. Um, let's talk about how it can really help business owners um, in marketing, right? Because there's a lot of money that gets paid to market our
Sure.
businesses.
Sure.
How can we utilize it to really help us? What tips can you give the viewers when it comes to using AI to market their business in more effective with, data-driven information, right? That they
Sure.
can make good decisions on investing in their business.
Well, I think the first thing that you want to do is make sure that the tool you're using understands your goals and understands
Hmm.
who you are and what you're trying to achieve. I
Hmm.
kind of mentioned this in my talk over the weekend, in that we tend to make assumptions that these tools know who we are. We assume they know what we want to do, what we're trying
Hmm.
to achieve. So we have to make sure that these tools understand who we are, what we're trying to do, what tone we want to speak in, how we want to reach an audience, what our audience looks like. We have to tell these tools the audience that we're trying to talk to. A lot of
Hmm.
people will attack marketing, and it's not just from an AI perspective, but just from a marketing or branding perspective of, I'm going to come up with this brand and it's going to work. Okay, but why? Who's the brand for? What's
Right.
the value proposition to that brand? So you got to ask those same types of questions when you're working with these AI tools. Once you've established that foundation, everything else is streamlined.
Like
Once it
your niche,
understands
right? The audience and the niche,
100%,
your target
100%.
audience.
Yes. Yes. Who are you talking to? Who's your niche? Who's your ideal client? If you could pick your client out of a lineup, what would they look like? What's their background? What's their educational background? What's their financial status? Are they married? Are they divorced? Or what's their ethnicity? All those things. So we have to have an understanding of exactly who we're talking to, and we have to convey that to each of these AI tools that we're using. So especially if you're using something like a Chat GPT, because
Yes.
Chat GPT, it doesn't have any specific necessarily functionality built on top of it. Now, there are companies out there that have taken Chat GPT and put it on the back end of an application. So it uses its AI platform to bring information in. But some of these companies will build these tools that have a skin on them, and they're designed for a specific purpose. And
Okay.
these tools, they're very good at doing specific purposes. But if we're talking to these chatbots, we have to set that foundation. And again, once that foundation is set, it's really super simple, especially now. ChatGPT just dropped a brand new version last Monday. It's
Mhm.
ChatGPT 4.0, and
Wow.
it's it's I can't even express how much more robust this new version is. It's at a minimum 2 times faster than the old version. It's got significantly more parameters to it, so it has access to more data. It has enhanced browsing capabilities. They're getting really ready to roll out the new voice features as well. So it's got enhanced voice features,
Wow.
speaks infinite languages. It just goes on and on and on and on. So anything that you're doing from your marketing, shoot, even with ChatGPT, if you're hitting 2 different target markets, say you have a Hispanic market that you're wanting to reach, and you have an English speaking, when I say Hispanic market, like a native Mexico market where they
Right.
predominantly
Right.
speak Spanish, and an English speaking market, you can create your marketing campaigns at the same time in 2 different languages. So
I love
it's
that.
the options are endless there. So, but again, it's most important that the tool knows who you are, what your goals are, and who you're trying to talk to.
Awesome. We're going to take a short commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how, I'm in the coaching field. There's many podcasters out there. I have a TV show, but, you know, we need content. So how can we use ChatGPT? This is you're the expert here. So you're going to share with us some tips on how we can use ChatGPT to create this content that we need to help bring information out to the world. So we'll be right back, everyone.
Now, the vast majority, approximately 95% of the people of all countries, go around and around without aim or purpose. They drift with the circumstances of life, good or bad.
A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind.
Whereas the successful individuals create their own circumstances and ride them to victory.
When you're on purpose, you're living on purpose. You will never quit if you have a real purpose.
A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. But what I have done has been recorded, it's been tested, it's being taken to a free world, and it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born.
And it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born. We're some of those people that we're spreading this to the world. As your awareness grows, the doubt is gone so that you can manifest whatever it is your heart desires. Isn't that beautiful?
So welcome back. So let's talk about how AI can really help coaches and podcasters to really tap into this new way of creating content to make it easier, because we need our life to get easier. And I think, if we can look at it from that perspective,
Sure.
we can really embrace it and enjoy using it instead of finding it as a struggle.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you can do is these tools primarily are designed for text-based type content. So if you're creating social media posts, if you're creating blog posts, if you're writing ebooks, it takes it a step further as well. If you want to do image generation, ChatGPT has DALL-E 3 built directly into the platform, so you can use it to draw images for you as well. So from that perspective, the opportunities are pretty endless. One of my favorite tools that's out there is Canva, especially when we're creating content.
I love Canva.
It's one of my favorites. I couldn't live without it. And you gotta go ahead and get that pro version. You gotta step up and pay whatever it is, the $10 a month or $15 a month, and get the pro version.
Yeah.
They've done a tremendous job of integrating AI. I think they call it Magic Write. I think that's what they call it. They've done a tremendous job of adding AI into their platform, even with AI image generation as well. They've done a pretty good job there also. Find these types of tools and leverage these things. I find it saving me so much time, because all you have to do is prompt it with a concept, prompt it with an idea of whatever content you want to write about, and it'll write about it.
Yeah.
I have several ebooks that I've written called AI Proof, and they're AI proof for various industries, AI proof education, AI proof podcasters. The list goes on and on. And I've written the vast majority of those using ChatGPT, where each of these ebooks go in and it talks about how can we AI proof this industry? How do we AI proof ourselves if we're a member of that industry?
Right.
And you can do the same thing. It doesn't matter what your industry is. It's available to you to create content specifically for that industry by simply prompting it. And again, though, I want to stress that you want to go in, and especially if you're using ChatGPT, you have the opportunity to set up custom instructions. That's where you tell the tool who you are, what you're trying to do, and what you're trying to achieve. So I highly recommend you leverage custom instructions, so you don't have to necessarily prompt ChatGPT each time by telling it you're a marketer or you're a brand expert. It already knows what it is, and it already knows what your goals are. And just build on it from there. Depending on the content that you're creating, a couple of simple prompts will get you everywhere you need to be.
So you can set parameters from the very beginning on who you are, who's your targeted market, and then start to customize it from there. What I love is, what I'm hearing is that there's no need for competition here, right? Because you can really customize it to where you become unique in whatever you're offering by just talking and getting the information. And again, I think it makes life a lot easier when it comes to marketing yourself.
It makes it super simple. And I mean, for instance, if you wanted to create a content calendar, you can simply tell ChatGPT to create a content calendar for a social media post for the entire month of where are we at right now? Let's do June. We're going to plan ahead. Create a content calendar for the month of June. In the content calendar, include a name of the post, include the idea of the post, create the text of the post, and then create me a schedule for the post. I want to release every Monday, Tuesday, Friday. And ChatGPT will build that table with all of those fields populated for you right there. You can export it into a CSV file, open it up in Excel, and you've got an entire content calendar ready for you to load into your content scheduler if you use a content scheduler. But you can do anything you want from that perspective, and it makes planning, you don't have to plan it. Now, I do highly recommend that you go back, if you do something like this, you read each one of those social media posts, you read each one of those titles, each one of those, the content that's in each of those posts, and make sure that it's accurate.
Yes,
You know,
of
all
course.
of these tools, they tend to hallucinate from time to time, and they'll make up facts, and they'll even make up fact checks along the way
Yeah,
as well. They'll
yes,
make up resources where they made up these facts from. So it's you still have to do your due diligence,
of
but
course.
you don't necessarily have to sit down and put that thinking cap on and go, gosh, how am I going to talk about my podcast again? I've
Yeah.
already written every post I can possibly imagine. Go to
I,
ChatGPT, boom.
I remember when I first started, it was a lot of time. I mean, and
Yeah,
now it's super simple. If I want to have a topic, I'm like, give me 10 titles for this topic, and here you go.
and there
Very
you
easy
go.
to come up with topics that are relatable to people, and bringing out information like this information on artificial intelligence. If we don't use it, we're losing out on a lot, right? It becomes where we are not super effective in sharing information that can be shared to make us to bring valuable information out there.
Well,
How else?
you know, you have to look at it from this perspective in that these tools, they've been trained on massive amounts of
Mm,
magazine articles, websites, collegiate level discussions. I mean, anything that's text, they've basically been trained on. And regardless of your expertise, you can rest assured that the parameters built into these large language models are much more robust than what you as an individual could possibly contain in multiple lifetimes. So you've got a
yeah,
built-in expert regardless of your background and regardless of your profession.
love it. Talk to us about you being the expert. You do offer different services to help businesses market to their audience.
Sure.
With this feature, I mean, this is your expertise. What do you do to a podcaster? How do you help them?
Well, when we decide, are we talking about from launch? Are we talking about they already have a show and we're going to implement AI to streamline their
You
process?
know what? Let's talk about both. Let's just take one at a time.
Sure.
We have some time.
Well, there's another feature in ChatGPT that we haven't talked about yet, and I'm only
Um,
telling you about this because it feeds into the conversation based on the question you just asked.
okay.
There are these custom GPTs that are out there,
Okay.
and custom GPTs are essentially apps within ChatGPT. They're apps that are built on ChatGPT and they're built on proprietary information. So if you had information about your business or you had proprietary information, maybe you've written a book, maybe you've done a variety of different analyses and you want your clients to focus on the data that you've come up with as well, you can incorporate that into these custom GPTs. So a lot of times I went out and I wrote a podcaster's GPT. So if you go to the custom GPT store within ChatGPT, you can pull up Podcasters GPT. It'll say author Larry Roberts, and it'll take you through every step of either starting a podcast or helping your podcast grow and monetize. So it really depends on your perspective there. We can do it all. But what I would do without necessarily using those custom GPTs is we would sit down and we would determine what your show is and who your show's for. We'd get a good understanding of that show. Then we would go in and we would get some title ideas. We would, similar to what you just said about your social media post, give
Mm-hmm.
us 10 potential titles for a podcast about this. The audience is this. Make sure that that title doesn't conflict with any existing podcast titles. Make sure that we avoid any opportunities for brand confusion with this podcast title. Notice how I was talking about that being the prompt, and I kept getting more and more and more specific.
Yes.
Telling you exactly what I'm looking for, what I'm not looking for, and take this into consideration when you make this list of 10 titles.
Yes.
So I gave it parameters to function within. So then we would get back those 10 titles. And then with the client, I would sit down and we go title by title. If we had I don't know, out of 10, maybe there's 3 that they really, really like. From there, we would take those titles and we would go out and I would do a counter search as well. I've got several resources out there that let us know what podcasts exist. And we bounce these names off and make sure that, there is no opportunity for brand confusion. That particular name doesn't already exist. So we would use ChatGPT to help us through that ideation process, then do our own due diligence by going out and second checking this. But if you were to use ChatGPT for that ideation process, I mean, how long could you sit there and think about potential names for a show? It could take you forever. Yeah. So,
I remember those days. I promise you. I was there not too long ago.
This is just an opportunity to streamline the conversation, and then the next step, what would we do? We'd come back and using some of those same parameters, we'd ask ChatGPT to help us write the description for the show. As a podcast consultant and coach, I like to make sure that the description of everybody's show is as robust as possible. Each of your podcast platforms allow you up to 4,000 characters for your description. And that field is indexed, meaning that if somebody's looking for a podcast and your description happens to have some of the keywords and phrases they're using to find these shows, that field is taken into account by all the podcast platforms. So we'd make sure that we use ChatGPT to write the most robust description that we can within those parameters, leveraging all the SEO goodness that we can squeeze out of ChatGPT, making sure we get all the good keywords and key phrases that have to do with whatever our subject matter is and that is most searched for by our ideal listener. So,
I love that because everything's all connected.
It really is.
If you're doing it correctly, it's all pretty much connected into, wow.
So, and that's just the foundation. I mean, that's how we would kind of get started. Then if we wanted to, we could even design cover art. If you have a brand new show, you have to have cover art of some sort. You have to have image art, whether it's widescreen for YouTube videos or live stream videos, or whether it's square images for podcasts. So we could go through that same very similar ideation phase, but this time we're telling ChatGPT to draw us images of a podcast titled this. And for this audience, I like these colors. I like this style. And we'd start getting some ideas back. So that would definitely streamline that design process as well.
Beautiful. I mean, talking about really starting a business to make it really easy these days, right? Because, everyone has great ideas, especially if you're an expert in the field and you want to share the information that you know. This is like the perfect way to really, at minimum cost, because GPT is not that expensive.
No.
On a monthly basis, and it could just save so much in time.
Well, you can eliminate so many different individual tools just by using ChatGPT alone. And you've mentioned starting a business multiple times. Imagine being a brand new entrepreneur trying to start a business, and you got an idea of what you want to do, but you've never built a business plan. You have no idea really how to monetize this idea that you have. You can write your business plan in ChatGPT. If you don't know how to write a business plan, ChatGPT, I want to write a business plan about this particular industry. And I've got this for startup money, and I've got this, and I've got this. Lay out the parameters of what you have, what you're trying to achieve. It'll tell you exactly how to write the business plan. Then turn right around and just build on each of those components. Okay, step one, I need to have a description of the business. So help me write a description that's going to attract potential investors or potential clients, however you want to approach it, for this particular business that I want to start. I'm a brand new entrepreneur. It'll sit there and it'll walk you through every step of the process. And before you know it, in an hour or so, you have a business plan. I wrote my own business plan using ChatGPT.
And for those who need to go to the bank and go get a loan, you need that business plan.
You got to have a business plan, 100%.
Or you can, absolutely. So, wow, that's awesome. People don't think that it can really create programs and business plans, but it really has a whatever a variety of things that you can really use it for, not just, tell me, the 10 top songs in the music industry, right? It's because at the beginning that's what I used to use it for, very
Sure.
simple um request. But now it's like I can literally write a book and make money from it. So, people who want to start their own business, oh my goodness, like using this tool is really something that can help you. Like if you're working from home, you can definitely find ways to make money in new ways using JetPT.
There's so many
So
different
many ways.
ways. I mean,
Yeah.
one of my clients, and this shows us how sophisticated you could get as well. One of my clients is a business broker here in Dallas, and
Yeah.
as a business broker, business brokers go in and they buy businesses, but before they can evaluate a business and determine whether or not
Mhm.
it's available to sell, you have to put together this thing called a CIM, or a confidential information memorandum,
Yes.
and this breaks down every component of the business, talks about the history of the business and the owners and all this confidential information, right? But
Yeah.
it's structured in a certain way, and there are certain parts of it that require some research. So I showed him exactly how to use ChatGPT to streamline this confidential information memorandum writing process.
Wow.
So it can be as complex or as simple as give me 10 podcast titles for a podcast on knitting. You can take it from whatever
Yes.
perspective you want. So
What other tools are out there that use JetPT?
oh my gosh, there's literally hundreds of them coming online every week. There's no way that I could list an entire list, but there are competitors to ChatGPT that I do talk about.
Yes.
Microsoft Copilot is out there. That's another chatbot that does a tremendous job. Microsoft Copilot is integrated in all of the Microsoft Office suites. So if you're a Microsoft user and you use Word and you use Excel and
Yes.
PowerPoint, you now have Copilot that's integrated directly into the Office suite. Matter of fact, it's integrated if you've got the latest operating system for your Windows machine. It's integrated into the taskbar at the bottom of your OS. So it's with you all the time. Not a big fan of that myself, but it's there. Uh,
Sure.
just the fact that it's just there all the time. And they made some announcements that are a little scary coming up. But, anyways, Microsoft Copilot's another great one. Google Gemini, very similar in the fact that it's a chatbot as well, but it's Google's version of the
Hmm.
chatbot, and it's integrated into the Google suite. So if you use Google Docs or Google Sheets, I can't think of the Google Slides application, but it's there for all that as well.
Hmm.
Claude,
PowerPoint?
no, PowerPoint's Microsoft. I think it's just called Slides.
Oh
I think
no.
it's
Yeah,
Google
Google
Slides.
Slides.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
it
it's
is
in Google
right.
Slides. There you go. So it's in Google. It's in all the Google software.
Hmm.
But then there's also Claude. Claude is one of it's my number 2 favorite outside of ChatGPT.
I've
Uh,
never heard of that one. Okay.
That's CLAUDE.ai. It
Okay.
is tremendous. It's extremely conversational. It just sometimes ChatGPT has a tendency, especially right out of the box, to sound kind of robotic, very sterile, very
Yes.
academic. Claude sounds much more human, conversational right out of the gate. So I highly recommend that whatever you're doing, and you can use the free version of Claude and get tremendous results. And on that note as well, the latest version of ChatGPT is also free now. There are still benefits to paying for ChatGPT, which I would recommend you do, but you can still get the latest and greatest version now of ChatGPT for free. But I would recommend that if you're creating content, if you're writing a book, if you're writing blog posts, that you put the prompt into ChatGPT, take a look at the output,
Hmm.
put the same prompt into Claude, take a look at the output, see which one you like best. Maybe mix the two. So I love both of these platforms to kind of get a little tweak and a little different perspective on the output from my prompts. So Claude, again, definitely my number 2 platform that I love using. I find myself using it more and more for just basic writing tasks a lot of the times over ChatGPT. So and then last but not least, Meta. Meta's got to be in the game. Meta has Llama, that is their large language model, and it's Facebook's large language model. So you've got those 5 there, and that
Yeah.
that gives you a lot to play with, and a lot of different perspectives on things. And I highly recommend you at least test drive all of them. But Again, my favorites, Claude and ChatGPT.
So give us some ideas of if someone who wants to start their business using the AI platforms. Other than, if they know their market, they know their avatar,
Okay.
do they go and start writing programs? Do they start, where do they start to begin to create, um, a good product to sell?
Oh, wow. Okay. So now we're looking for products to sell within our business. I think the
Mm,
first thing that I would do is I would go to ChatGPT and I wouldn't worry about writing programs. But
mm,
I would, it can, definitely has a version. There's a
mhm.
application within ChatGPT called Code Interpreter, and it can definitely help you write programs. But I don't recommend you go down that path. If you're looking for a product to sell for your industry or your niche, I would
Mm,
simply ask, give me a list of the top 10 products in my industry that are within, I'm sure you have some sort of budget allocated to
right,
purchase these
right.
at wholesale. Help me find the right product for my audience. Again, got to know the audience, but ChatGPT will come back and it'll give you a list of particular products. If you find some of those products or you don't like any of those products, you're going to need to tweak your prompt a little bit. But one of the things too that I see a lot of times is people will prompt these tools, they'll get a response and then go, that didn't work. Well, it probably did work based on the parameters of your prompt,
Yes.
but don't hesitate to take the output from your prompt, read that output, and figure out exactly what's wrong with the prompt or what's wrong with the output. What
Right,
did it give me as compared to what was I looking for? Then
right.
go back in and change your prompt and take a look at those results. Then, if you want to expand on those results, you can take those results and say, now within these 10 items that you gave me to sell
Mhm.
based on my previous prompt, which of these are the top sellers? Create a table that ranks them in sales history from highest to lowest. ChatGPT will do that. Now, go out, ChatGPT, find me distributors of these products. Where can I get these products from, and what's the lowest price point that I can get them? Have it go out and do that analysis. So you see, I'm just digging deeper and
Yes, you
deeper and
are.
deeper into the results. And that's a very, very high level example. And it would definitely take some tweaking and some modifying to really get where you're going. But I just kind of wanted to do it at a high level and break down
Yes.
those steps to give you an idea of what you could do.
So your book that you wrote, does it help to um, help people identify prompts that they can use in
No,
AI?
interestingly enough, my book was twofold, and I'm actually working on a book right now called AI Proof that is going to help with that. That's going to be my next book.
Beautiful.
But my book was designed; it's all around branding. Because I wanted to go twofold. I have a lot of people that come to me on a regular basis asking me for branding advice because
Mhm.
I'm the red hat guy. And the red hat guy stands out in a crowd, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's such an amazing brand!" It just, they may not remember your name, but they remember you. And within my industry,
Yes,
within the podcast space, the red hat guy is very well known, and
yes.
you can pick me out in a crowd from clear across an arena if need be. You go, oh, there's Larry over there. I see the red hat glowing. So
I love
people
it.
tend to think that I'm a branding expert when, if we were too honest, we just kind of fell into this red hat thing. But but matter of fact, the actual red hat is right here behind me. It's a Supreme hat. I
Yeah,
actually wore that very hat. It's now in a glass case there because it was the foundation of everything that I have now. I wanted to make sure that I kept it. But I wore that hat on stage at a talk I was giving, and I came down. It was at the Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida, and I came down after giving the talk. And a good friend of mine, he gives me a hard time or whatever. He goes, "But seriously, why are you wearing that Supreme hat?" And I said, "Man, it's just a brand that the kids dig, and I'm trying to be cool and everything." He's like, "Well, are they paying you?" I go, "No, of course they're not paying me. No, not a chance." He goes, "Then why are you wearing their stuff on stage?" He goes, "You need to be wearing your merch on stage."
mm,
And that really resonated with me. And he followed that up by saying, "But I like the red. I like the red because, as I mentioned before, you stand out in a crowd. I can see you all the way across
yeah.
the arena." So I went home after that conference, got home. I tossed the Supreme hat in the closet. I bought a $6 unbranded red flat built hat off Amazon and instantly became the red hat guy. And it was amazing. I know it sounds so cheesy, but it was amazing to see how quick it happened, because within weeks, people started recognizing me in the podcast space as the Red Hat guy.
Yeah.
And about 4 or 5 months later, I went to Bitcoin Miami, which is a massive conference in Miami, Florida. 35,000 people over the course of 3 days are in and out of this conference, huge conference. And during that time, I was there as an interview. I was interviewing the speakers and creating content and just being the whole content creator guy that I am. And over the course of those 3 days, multiple people that I did not know,
Mm-hmm.
went, "Oh, are you the podcast guy?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, how did you know that?" Like, "Well, the Red Hat." And I was like, "Oh, this is real. This Red Hat thing is real." So I changed my business name. I revamped everything, and Red Hat Media was born. And that was only 2.5 years ago. So, and it's
Beautiful.
tremendous since then. So people tend to look at me as a branding expert, and I try to help them in that arena. And that's one of the things that inspired me to write the book. But I also wanted to write the book using AI. So it was a two-pronged approach. Use AI to do it, but then I wanted to write about a different topic. So this book specifically focuses on personal branding, standing out in a crowd, and how to leverage things like podcasts and networking and a variety of other approaches to create your own very strong personal brand.
I love that. I love that. And you make it very personal, right? Because it's to you and it's connecting to your name. So anyone who talks about the Red Hat, automatically Larry's name is attached to it. So I love that. And then, I used to work for major companies, MasterCard International, Bayer Pharmaceutical, Coca-Cola, and Siemens Healthcare. All
Wow.
three of them had humongous marketing campaigns going. For
Sure.
MasterCard, we used to have Pele as a spokesperson to go out and market their brand, and they had the campaign going, Priceless. If you remember the Priceless when it first came out with
Oh,
MasterCard.
with MasterCard. Yes. I'm sorry. I was
Yes,
still thinking Nike, but yeah, MasterCard. Yes.
MasterCard. So, again, that name, Priceless, won over, I mean, millions of dollars, and they got recognized all over the place
Sure.
because if you hit it correctly and you have the right marketing campaign, it's so important. It really drives your business forward.
Yeah,
So
it definitely does. Now, my Red Hat, because of our political environment, has sometimes has a little negative connotation to it, but I assure you there's no relation there. It's nothing political whatsoever. So, but I even got that when I was out. And it's funny because I was in California. Yeah, well, that's where we met. But
Mhm.
I tend to not wear the Red Hat when I go to California, because I don't want that connotation. I don't want people thinking certain things. And there's this massive podcast conference coming up in August in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to go because, well, it's Washington, D.C. It's an election year. I'm wearing a red hat. Could definitely be,
Let's stay away from the
could
White House.
definitely create some interesting scenarios for old Lair. And I don't want to do that. So regrettably, these are things that we don't necessarily take into account when we're developing our brand. But we do have to address them from time to time. And it's a funny little story. I don't know, a year and a half or so ago, went out to LA for a different conference, and I wore a white hat. And I got there before my business partner. She flew out as well. And I got there before she did. So I was sitting in baggage, waiting on her to get there. And she came down from the escalator, walked through baggage, and just kept on walking, walked right past me. And then she came back by and she just kept on walking and walked right past me, because she was looking for the red hat and I was wearing a white hat. So she didn't even recognize me. I'm like, "You're my personal friend," but she didn't even recognize me without the silly red hat. So yeah, you got to take those things into consideration when you're building a brand, but all that's in the book too. So I talk about
Absolutely.
it
Well,
there.
that's where the experts come in, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we try to do it on our own, and I always say if you have a passion for something, always know there's someone out there to help you drive that passion,
Sure.
and you don't have to do it alone. So tell us how people can get in touch with you,
Sure.
and yeah, what do you offer?
Well, we offer everything. Our tagline basically, or our mission statement is that we are shaping the future of brand storytelling through innovative podcasting, branding, and artificial intelligence solutions. So there's my spiel.
Mm,
You can find me at LarryRoberts.com. Red Hat Media is
mhm.
also at LarryRoberts.com. Everything is right there on that one site. Got a services page there that shows everything that we can do for you. I've got a variety of different resources on the site, everything you can imagine in regards to those three verticals that we address. I'm also on social media across the board. It's the Larry Roberts on Instagram, on Facebook,
Mhm.
on LinkedIn. Super easy to find across the board from that perspective as well. I do tend to hang out on Facebook more than any other platform, with LinkedIn probably coming in second and
Okay.
Instagram coming in a very distant third. I don't know why I just cannot do Instagram. I want to, but I just don't give my IG account the attention that it deserves. So I'm guilty of that. But yeah, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you. Love to help
Mhm.
you any way that I can, and we can just see what your goals are, and work together to help you accomplish them.
Awesome. So, as we bring it to a close, I just wanted to emphasize, if we don't embrace AI, well, let's go on the other end.
Okay.
What does AI look like 5 years from now, according to
Oof.
you?
It's so funny because I get asked that question a lot, and I think we need to focus more on what does AI look 5 months from now, because we
Mhm.
just don't know 5 years from now where we're going to be.
Yeah.
If you look at just how quickly ChatGPT has evolved, it was
Mhm.
released to the public in November of 2022. We're not even 2 years into this
Mhm.
radical social experiment, and we've already seen mind blowing, significant strides in the
Yeah.
technology and in the effectiveness of this technology across the board. When you start to couple that with companies like Boston Dynamics, which is a robotics company, and if you happen to see the video of their latest robot, their humanoid robot, it is freaky. So you combine those humanoid robots with the artificial intelligence that we have now, and 5 years from now, I would be blown away if we did not have
Yeah.
humanoid robots integrated into society at least a certain level. It sounds so science fiction, but it's so true. Even with the latest version of ChatGPT that just dropped, you've now got the opportunity. You got the opportunity right here on your phone to have your own AI tutor, your own AI companion, your own AI partner, if you will, because the conversationality of this
Mm.
tool just leapt forward significantly. I mean, yes, it already has voice capabilities, but they're very robotic. There's lag in between the conversation. You can have a conversation as soon as they roll this out to the public in the next couple of weeks. You'll be able to have a conversation just like you and I are having right now with ChatGPT.
That's
That's with
amazing.
with with no setup, with nothing. Just right out of the box, just have the conversation. Choose the voice that you like and roll with it. Now you can even interrupt ChatGPT if it's giving you a go. Hold on, no, that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about this. And then ChatGPT would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. How about we do this?" And blah, blah. It's mind
Talk about
blowing.
never being alone.
You're literally that's exactly right. You are never going to be alone. And
Yeah.
again, with just the significant changes we've seen in the last 18 months, to predict where we're at in 5 years, it's just not within my personal crystal ball. But it's going to be significant, and we're going to see more and more significant gaps in this AI divide that we're starting to see develop. And we have to cross that gap. And ethical AI development is at the forefront of so many of these conversations at these large corporations that are building these models. But if we don't do things from an ethical perspective and start developing
Mhm.
this technology that makes it accessible to more people, that makes it accessible regardless of your socioeconomic background,
Right,
you
right.
still need access to these tools. Or the people that don't have that, they're so far left behind. So that's the scary component there. And that's where we all have to work together to try to make these tools and this technology available to as many people as possible. And really, that's the foundation of my entire AI proof approach, is to
Yeah.
help make as many people as possible AI proof going forward.
I love that, Larry. I love that. Well, everyone, you heard him. He's here to help if anyone is in need of really understanding AI at the core. Larry Roberts is the expert. And I thank you so much for sharing this information with us, Larry. Where can they find your book? Can they go to Amazon and get your book?
It is on Amazon. It
is
most
on
definitely
Amazon.
is right there for you. Yes, ma'am, on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And you can get contact with Larry at larryroberts.com. And also you can get in touch with me if you need to know more information. Thank you, Larry, for coming, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And until next time, I am your host, Giovanna Tartarone, and see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change with Gigi. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchangenow.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change with Gigi.